Hey everybody, welcome again to Intuitive Tiffany Rose channel. And I have a friend with me, Jane. You probably met her last week if you're watching our videos. And Jane is going to talk to us about eclipses, the things that we need to know, what's cool about eclipses, how they're influencing my chart. I don't know if she's going to talk about what's cool, but it's all really cool, I think. So Jane, take the floor.
Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for having me. And yes, we're in eclipse season. And so what I'm going to do is be talking a little bit about how the eclipses influence all of us and what to know about the eclipses. And then we'll go a little bit into Tiffany's chart, specifically how they're going to be influencing her chart. So what really to focus on about eclipses is that it can be dealing with things of change and possibly crisis and things of focus. And so when eclipses are happening, it can also often be fated changes that get sped up in time in a sense. And we have two different kind of eclipses. We have a solar eclipse and we have a lunar eclipse. And so with the solar eclipse, what we're thinking of is that it's going to be creating new beginnings and bright new opportunities. And it can help us shake things up and free us from the old and begin with the new. Whereas the lunar eclipse helps with a bit more emotional. And it brings up issues that are ready to be healed, and they bring on final endings. They often make us aware of passage of time and can make us sentimental. And we have eclipses that happen between every 2 weeks, starting when one eclipse happens, then the next eclipse happens. And usually they happen in alternate signs. Now, the effects of this eclipse, it's most major when it's exact, and the month prior, as close up to the eclipse date. But we're still feeling the eclipses energy. There's certain trigger dates in the future that come that set off the influence of the eclipse up to a year. So sometimes people will say like, oh, that eclipse, nothing happened. But if you don't, if you don't know what those eclipse trigger dates were, where the planets later went over that eclipse point, then you might not know that certain events and changes that happened to you are related to those eclipses. So let's think about some general things to know about eclipses. This is relevant for everyone. It's going to bring possibly big news of life's big events, endings, beginnings, and they can speed up your sense of time and a change of your timetables. Eclipses can it's very important to take any messages that you hear from an eclipse as a non-negotiable. You just realize, okay, this is happening around the eclipse. I'm going to take this, accept it, and move on. Notice the synchronicities that come up. It's important to guard your health around eclipses. And this is a very important thing to consider, that on the day of the eclipse, this is a fantastic exercise for everyone to get into, is to say to yourself, I'm going to be doing a calm, fantastic, meditative day. I'm going to keep myself in a state of peace and grace. Even if things that are stressful arise, I'm going to keep my emotions in check. And I'm going to really pay close attention to that on the day of the eclipse, and plus or minus one day of the eclipse, because what you're doing is you're setting the tone for how later the eclipse can play out on those eclipse trigger dates. So if you find that you're going to have an event happen that could be quite disruptive, you still want to say to yourself, this is an eclipse day. I'm really going to keep my emotions in check, particularly anger. So I'm going to say that I know someone on an eclipse day that got real angry about something. And I was with that individual. We were driving and they were getting frustrated about someone else's driving and just let off a lot of frustrations. And to myself, I was, oh my gosh, it's an eclipse day. Keep your energy in check. It might not matter to you, but it matters to me.
I remember this.
Yes. So I recalled that. It stuck in my brain. And then months later, this individual reached out to me and called and said, I just totaled my car. And the light was red for 4 seconds, and I didn't notice it, and went through the red light. And I thought to myself, well, what was going on in your astrology? So I went home, looked at the astrology. Sure enough, it was an eclipse trigger date. And that individual was very much tied into the eclipse because his planets were very close to the eclipse that day. And so that was some fantastic living proof that the information I had researched about these eclipse trigger dates were accurate. So really important to be keeping yourself as peaceful as possible. This is not a great time to be scheduling medical procedures, particularly cosmetic things that can wait. But if it's an absolute emergency, yes, go on and get your medical services and so forth. But it's not always so recommended to schedule a surgery on an eclipse date. Back in the day, people, when they were our ancestors, the way that they protected themselves from eclipses was that they took the days off. They stayed indoors, they fasted, and they even broke pottery intentionally to release energy. They laid underwater, and they protected themselves with their gems and metals, such as gold, silver, and copper. So get out all your energetic jewelry, be wearing your jewelry. One time when an eclipse happened, I thought I was going to be real smart, and I decided I'm going to take a bath during this eclipse and get with get with what the ancestors were doing. Have some fun, do a ceremony. But know that overall, if you only remember one thing, it's behave on the eclipse days. This is not a time to be going out, doing a lot of drinking, putting your health at risk, and being ultra emotional. Know that if you are a Leo, like Miss Tiffany here, that they will feel the solar eclipses even more intensely because the sun is the ruler for Leo. Now, if you're a Cancer, like myself, a Cancer sun sign, you may be feeling those lunar eclipses more strongly, being even more emotional because the moon rules Cancer. Another really cool thing to think about is what was going on 19-ish years ago around this time, which would be 2005. What was going on in 2005 for you? Because the most interesting thing is that these eclipses happen in the similar degrees every single 19 years. So we have themes that can repeat themselves. And so Tiffany and I were talking before we started the film, and I said, okay, what was going on in 2005? And she mentioned something that just interesting popped into her awareness about 2 days ago that was related to 2005. So Tiffany, share with us what that experience was.
This is so crazy. I was Googling myself, trying to find old newspaper clippings of my 20s era where I was on stage for at least half of that decade was completely dedicated to just music and singing on stage. So I was putting together a bio for myself a couple days ago, talking about my graphic design experience. And so I was trying to find old newspaper clippings, but what I found instead was a video that had been posted 6 years ago. So I had no clue it was even there or in existence, but it was a video of me singing with the rock band. And this was just shortly after the 2005. So the video, I think, was filmed in like 2006. So from 2004 to 2008, I was with that band, and it was the David Samuel Project, and it's on iTunes. And I was stunned to find that video of myself belting out all of these big notes in front of a audience. No clue that was there. So 19 years ago, I was very much in the public eye. I was on stage a lot, mostly singing. I wasn't a public speaker back then, pretty terrified of public speaking back then. But now I'm overcoming that and, making more public appearances. I've been giving speeches at both days of every fair that I've attended. So yeah, 19 years ago, I was fully in the music scene on stage, but also producing other artists, helping with songwriting. Sometimes I would help with teaching them or creating the harmonies for artists that were coming into the studio. So I would come up with the harmonies for their music and then teach them to sing it, sometimes singing on their albums too, but then doing all the graphic design work for the CDs, um, photography, producing, pretty much everything someone would need if they were going to launch into the music business. We did it all. So I find myself doing what I was doing, like I'm not on stage singing now, but I'm definitely on stage and I'm doing a lot of graphic design work. I'm helping, so to speak, produce other spiritual businesses, help them come up with their name, help them come up with their design, all of that stuff. So it is kind of like a repeat of 19 years ago. It's just a different version. Fascinating. Wow.
Beautiful. And what I loved is that it just popped up 2 days prior. So,
Yeah.
and into your awareness. So everyone, I really encourage you, think back to 2005-ish. What was going on around that time? If you got married, you met your first husband, 2005-ish, keep your eyes open. There may be another individual that you might be bumping into again, if you're single and looking to partner up. So additional things to know about eclipses. Truths may arrive in startling ways. And actually, sometimes people that maybe are important to you may actually be eclipsed out of your life. It's not the best time to issue ultimatums, and it's good to keep your schedule light and elastic. Do not overpack your schedule at this time. Additional thoughts that we're going to do is we're going to pull up Tiffany's chart and go right on into it.
Can I ask you something real quick before you do that? So, what you were just saying a minute ago about keeping your schedule light, do you mean like right now? Like right now this month? Or
Well,
what?
if possible, but be flexible also.
Because I'm looking at my calendar and it looks nuts. So, does that mean I need to like cancel some things?
Well, actually, I will say I wasn't going to get too much into it, but in your chart, you do have, I'm going to say it as I pull it up.
Okay, cool.
I'll let you enable the screen sharing.
Oh, thank you.
So on September 6th, will be exact, where that is going to be Saturn making an aspect to your sun that deals with you having to make some type of an adjustment with your work in some way. So I would say be asking yourself, could this be interfering negatively with my vitality? Am I working too hard? Is there a way that I can cut back so I can still feel vital? Because when the Saturn, which deals with work, responsibility, duties, when it's making a aspect to your sun, which deals with your vitality, your core essence, it can be a challenge. And the aspect that it's making, literally the key phrase is what adjustment needs to be made. So even if it doesn't mean that you are reducing your workload, that somehow you're setting in more time for self-care, because that could be a recipe for a little bit of burnout if you're not putting aside your self-care. But interestingly, you'll have a aspect to your sun that's dealing with the me-we fair that you're going up to. So this can be an achievement.
Cool.
The Saturn is also dealing with achievements. So it can be showing like that you're coming as this is a part of your career. Additionally, this month, Saturn also makes an aspect to the planet, the area in your chart that deals with your career. So also gives a little bit of suggestion where there's some kind of developmental tension possibly with where you're with your workload. And you got the me-we fairs. That is just, I mean, think of it, there's a lot goes into that. And after we come back from some of those, we do definitely need to unwind, take time to rejuvenate ourselves, as well as doing as the best that you can to make sure that you're getting that kind of self-care even at the conferences when you're traveling.
That's good advice.
Okay, so first eclipse that is coming up. One moment. This is happening on September 17th for all of us. So September 17, we're all behaving. We're all being our highest spiritual self and really setting the tone for us to be getting fantastic later effects of our eclipses. And for you, Tiffany, it is falling in the sign of Pisces for you, because everyone, this is happening at the 25th degree of Pisces. So people who are born within the last 5 to 10 days of the water signs are going to be really feeling this in a beautiful, harmonious aspect. And if you have your sun in the last 5 to 10 degrees of Pisces or Virgo, you particularly will be feeling this. So what we're doing is we're thinking, oh, what does it mean? Because this is a North Node eclipse. Okay, and so with the North Nodes, we're thinking of that this is for the positive, the fortunate that can happen. It can be dealing with a tide coming in, an entry point, a flood of fortune, a flood of work, a surge of force, and celestial energy enters in this area. And this area of the chart for Tiffany is falling in the house that would be dealing with her finances, her possessions, which is the second house, and resources. However, it is also connected in with our third house because it's at the very tail end. It's within 2 degrees of that third house is when that eclipse happens. So it's also going to bring to light short distance travels, such as the MeWe journeys, all sorts of communications, which is the third house matters, all sorts of learning, and possibly things with neighbors and siblings all coming to light. So also ideas. This is the whole, everything that is dealing with processing of information getting lit up in this sector and influencing your finances in a way that giving it the spark that, of course, everyone loves to get in their house of the finances. So you have ability to be making income based off of the way that you're communicating, the way that you're teaching, and the ways that you are learning and so forth. So with this being in the Pisces energy, this is a thought for all of us, is that we want to make sure to be getting our sleep. Sleep is ruled by Pisces. So, and we were just talking about that's a little bit of a challenge for Tiffany and myself, but that's an important thing to keep in mind. And know that we want to be doing what we can to enhance our immune system, and we want to be doing things of spiritual practices, pray and meditate. These are all Pisces type of things. And so everything that you're doing, Tiffany, absolutely supports this. Tiffany's been doing a 4-week workshop on releasing the victim veil, which is beautiful for this. This is just perfect how this plays out, because victim energy is connected with Pisces. The eclipse is happening in Pisces. It's all of Tiffany and her partner in the presentations collective work of all the information that they're sharing, which is that third house contact. And then she's benefiting financially from her workshop. That's just one example. So this is exciting for you. And then I ask myself, well, that eclipse is happening at the 25th degree. Does Tiffany have any degrees around the 25th degree, plus or minus 3 degrees? And that brings us to your Neptune. So by the aspect that deals with a 90-degree aspect, Tiffany, your Neptune is getting eclipsed by a square. Now, it's even more possibly powerful when it is a conjunction, when it's right on top of each other, real close to each other, in opposition, when it's opposing each other. But the square is also applicable as a hard aspect that is to be watched during eclipse time. So this means that absolutely Tiffany has to behave on the eclipse day because she's getting her Neptune influenced. Okay, so what good could come from getting your Neptune influenced? Well, this can bring inspiration, creativity, your spirituality, and blissful times. It can be dealing with idealizations being realized, but alternately it can deal with some possible disillusionments. This is great for artistic pursuits and anything that calls for imagination and inspiration to be the guide. Dreams can be very vivid and informative. And also Neptune, it has a connection in with the subconscious, and Tiffany's doing a lot of work with her teaching people how to do different visualizations and so forth, connecting into the subconscious to help release the victimhood. So that is fantastic because Neptune is connected in with victimhood. So we want to be aware that we're not deceiving ourselves, and we're not allowing ourselves to be deceived by anyone, and that we're not going to fall for any scams when it's connected with with Neptune. And that we're not just going to trust people until they've proven themselves to us, type of thing. So I've listed all the different dates that are going to be indicated for this. So I'll say them right here because this could be something that would be helpful for you, Tiffany. Of course, I'm saying that on these following dates that I give, that I recommend that you do not set up appointments on these days. You try not to make major events be planned on these days. And then when you see that these days come up in your calendar, you take caution. Plus or minus 1 day, meaning that you try not to sign important contracts. You try not to do the most important things around these days. So that's coming up on December 16th, 2024, March 15th, 2025, April 10th, 2025, May 21, 2025, June 16, 2025, July 3, 2025. So we'll all have a little write-up, Tiffany, where I put these dates out there, and we can put them in the description so people can see this as well as, and then also say what degree that Pisces energy is for people who really do follow astrology and know where their planets are, and they realize, oh my gosh, I'm getting one of my planets activated through either a square, an opposition, or a conjunction. So that's how this first eclipse is playing out for you, Tiffany. And that is going to be more the emotional one, okay? Because that's connected in with the transiting moon. So now let's talk about what's going to be happening on October 2nd, okay?
Okay, wait. So what did
Mhm.
you just say about it being the emotional one? Which date are you talking about?
I'm saying that that's
one
going to
right
be
now?
the earliest eclipse that's going to be coming up on September 17th. That's the eclipse of the
Okay.
transiting moon. So that's going to be more about emotions.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So now we have the sun coming up, the eclipse of the sun, and that's on October 2nd. And that happens at 10 degrees Libra. So in your chart, 10 degrees Libra falls right in that 9th house. And the 9th house is connected in with activation for Tiffany. The highlighted is higher learning, teaching, publications, long range visions, philosophies, possibly long journeys. So it also can deal with travelers. And this is very much connected in with education and travel. And this is in the sign of Libra. And so with Libra, we want to be thinking about that Libra is connected in with relationships. So this is not always the best time to push things with relationships right around this eclipse time of the Libra eclipse. And we want to avoid unpredictable decisions. We want to be trying to keep our electrolytes balanced and our blood sugar balanced and be nurturing our kidneys around this time. And with this being a south node eclipse, think of it that it's going to be a letting go, a closet cleaning, dealing with second chances, spiritual awakenings, and that this can be bringing up some fear at times when it's dealing with the south node eclipse. Now, it is in the sign of We talked about it being in Libra. So now let's take the practice. This is what you do. You're looking at your chart. You say to yourself, okay, she said it's 10 degrees Libra. What if I go in the opposite direction, 10 degrees of Aries? No, not really. No, I mean, the moon's not that within 5 degrees. I even like to do within 3 degrees. So then I say to myself, okay, well, what about the next option? What about if I do the halfway point of where the opposition is, which is the 90-degree aspect of the square? And remember, that is happening at 10 degrees Libra. What's going on over here? Ding, 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 ding. We got a hit. We got a hit. Another square hit. So Tiffany's nodes are getting eclipsed. And that's really interesting because the nodes are dealing with your absolute destiny. Okay. So when we're getting nodes eclipsed, it's just like things that are just going to be happening that can be dealing with major transitions in our life that we really don't always have that much control over. So both the south node and the north node are at the 11 degrees because that's the nature of the nodes. They're right across from each other. So when we're thinking of what is it might happen when we have the activation of the north node, well, it's dealing with things connected with your future, your destiny, connections with people, beginnings, your intentions. And when we're thinking about what it might be connected in with your south node, we know that that's dealing with the past, completions with people, endings, release, and releasing with the south node and new beginnings with the north node. So I imagine that there's going to be things that just kind of fall into place that you're like, this is out with the old and with the new, things that are destined. And with Tiffany, with your nodes, it's the south node in Capricorn. Many lifetimes of being a very fantastic business person. I love it. And but one of the most challenging nodes because you had to grow up really early. It's the connection of anyone that has Capricorn energy is kind of like you're you grew up like acting like an adult, almost like you had adult responsibilities, you weren't babied so much type of thing. So it is a more challenging placement, but it does get easier over time because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn and Capricorn rules time. But then what we're looking at is that somehow it's connected in with Tiffany connecting in with the Cancer energy, the Cancer dealing with the divine feminine. When you have a north node in Cancer, that's a good indicator that it's a green light to be a mother in this lifetime. And Tiffany sure has had that experience having children herself. And also it's dealing with connecting in with things that maybe are related to the home, and you're working in your home and you own your own home. And you used to, when you were first in your 20s, you were involved in some type of business connected with selling homes or loans for homes, something of that nature. But
we were doing music producing in the home. The studio was in the home back in that 2005 era. We were working from home doing all of that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, also know that you have the activation happening in the 7th house of partnerships and also in the house of self. So expect that there's going to be advancements within your own identity, but also with your partnership with other people. And partnerships can be anyone that you're in a business relationship, a client, and anyone that's coming together. So expect that there's going to be some where you're realizing this is the good person to partner with, and maybe I'm not feeling this so much, or here I've got even more people to partner with, whatever that is, or how can I change it? I'm doing this, partnering with this person. How can we change the way that we're doing our partnering? So lots of excitement. And I'm going to give the dates for that. So remember, the date that you have to behave on that eclipse day as well is on October 2nd. And then the eclipse trigger dates, which I recommend not scheduling any surgeries on or signing any contracts or trying to incorporate any new businesses on, those type of things. Try and lay low on these dates, plus or minus one day: December 30, 2024, March 30, 2025, July 1, 2025, July 24, 2025, and August 22nd, 2025. So that gives you just a little bit of a snapshot here of what's going on with your eclipses. Tiffany, is there anything, any questions you want to ask, or anything you wanted to share that we didn't get a chance to share, of any comments or observations as we were going?
So on all of these dates that you gave, there you gave two different sets of dates. All of those dates, I'm supposed to behave.
Exactly.
Okay.
And exactly. The other thing is, I want to point out with this eclipse to Neptune, is that Neptune sometimes can deal with things that are like hard to understand. Okay, it's like, can be like a vague feeling that something's wrong. It deals with water, and it deals with things that could be dealing with, like, if you're having a bad time like processing a certain type of food or something, if your body's like experiencing it like a poison type of thing.
That
So
happens
it,
for me. That is a
yeah.
thing for me.
The other thing is supplements. So when my Neptune got eclipsed, literally on that day, it was like clockwork. I got someone knock on my door. They dropped off the brand new supplement. I had been excited, that I've been waiting for a long time to start. And I thought, oh my goodness, how interesting. When the eclipse was targeting my Neptune, that in that exact moment of the eclipse, it was when my new supplements came. That were like a big deal for me. It wasn't just an ordinary supplement that I was getting. But you want to be mindful, because there could be some supplement that you're taking that is no longer serving you, or there could be a supplement that you might need that you're having some kind of a lack of a nutrient or so forth, and then you take this in order to balance something out.
Well, that's a thing for me too. I'm out of some of the supplements that I usually take. So that's interesting timing of you to say that.
Okay, so really that concludes it. We're just thinking of our dates that we're going to be more mindful, more spiritual, laying low, self-nurturing, meditating, doing our spiritual practices on October 2nd and on September 17th of this year. So exciting times. Eclipses are always quite interesting. To see
Yeah.
how they play out. And in particular, if you don't even take anything away from this, take the one thing away from it, or a couple things, is remember, look back, what was going on in 2005 for you. That's what I think is really fun for me, like as we're starting to get older, that we can look back and see some of these cycles repeat ourselves, and hope that we're going to get an even better cycle than the one
That's
we
what
had
I was gonna
before, with a
say.
similar theme. Yeah, because you
How
were
cool
based.
to see the two different, like where I was in my, 20s, and here I am, I just turned 42. So, almost 20 years later, 19 years later. Uh,
Literally, you were being a rock star before, right? It was like literally.
literally.
So I mean, like, it's a continuation of being a rock star. How exciting is that?
That's really fun. So, and you know what? That's interesting too. My former boss, when I was trying to get into the corporate scene and training to be a State Farm agent, used to call me a rock star all the time. So that theme has continued. That's interesting. Well,
I love
hey,
it.
thank you so much for presenting this for all of us and keeping us on our toes, telling me when I need to lay low and hide. And knowing the right dates, knowing when not to sign contracts or when not to do certain things. It's important because if you can't see it coming, then you don't know until it just hits you. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing all of this out for us. If anyone watching would like to get an astrology reading with Jane, you can reach her at janemasteller.com. You can find me, of course, at intuitivetiffanyRose.com. And tune in next time. We're going to bring some more astrology and other things for you. So see you soon. Bye.